Elon Musk thinks about risk very differently and that difference begins very early in the decision-making process, long before money, fame, or public opinion enter the picture. For most people, risk feels emotional. It feels like fear, like anxiety, like the possibility of embarrassment or failure. For Musk, risk is closer to a math problem mixed with a moral question. He has often described his thinking as starting from first principles, but behind that technical phrase is something very human, a refusal to let inherited assumptions decide his future. When he looks at a big decision, he does not ask, "What do people like me usually do?" He asks, "What is actually true here, stripped of comfort, tradition, and fear?" That habit alone changes everything. When Musk was young, he read obsessively. Books were not an escape, they were tools. Science fiction taught him to imagine futures that did not yet exist. Physics taught him that the universe runs on laws, not opinions. This combination shaped how he sees risk. If something violates the laws of physics, it is impossible and therefore infinitely risky. If it does not violate physics, then the risk is not whether it can be done, but whether humans are willing to endure the pain of doing it. This is why he can look at something like reusable rockets or mass-market electric cars and feel calm where others feel panic. To him, the risk is not mystical. It is measurable, breakable, and therefore manageable. One of the most revealing things about Musk's approach to risk is that he separates personal risk from mission risk. He is unusually willing to absorb personal pain if the mission matters. When he sold Zip2 and then PayPal, he could have lived comfortably forever. Instead, he poured almost all his money into SpaceX and Tesla at the same time. From a traditional financial perspective, this was reckless. From Musk's internal logic, it was rational. He believed humanity needed two things urgently: a path to sustainable energy and a path to becoming multiplanetary. If those missions failed because he played it safe, that outcome felt worse to him than losing his fortune. The emotional weight of regret mattered more than the emotional weight of fear. This reveals something important. Musk's risk tolerance is not about thrill-seeking. He does not take risks for excitement. He takes risks to avoid a future he finds unacceptable. In his mind, the biggest risk is not failure, it is stagnation. It is a world where progress slows because everyone is protecting what they already have. When you understand this, his decisions stop looking impulsive and start looking consistent. He is not gambling. He is choosing which risks he refuses to live with. Another core element of Musk's thinking is that he distinguishes between probability of failure and cost of failure. Most people see high probability and panic, without deeply analyzing cost. Musk looks at both. If the probability of failure is high but the cost of failure is survivable or instructive, he is willing to proceed. Early SpaceX launches failed repeatedly. Rockets exploded. Each failure was public, expensive, and humiliating. But each failure also produced data. To Musk, data reduces future risk. The real danger would have been not learning fast enough. This is why he often pushes teams to move quickly and test aggressively. Slow perfection, in his view, can actually increase long-term risk by delaying learning. At the same time, Musk is not careless with irreversible risks. He is cautious where failure would permanently close doors. For example, when designing rockets or autonomous systems, he obsesses over redundancy and safety margins. This might look contradictory to outsiders who see only his bold tweets or ambitious timelines. But in his mind, bold vision and careful engineering are not opposites. Vision decides where to go, engineering decides how not to die along the way. Big decisions require both. Emotionally, Musk has a complicated relationship with fear. He feels it. He has admitted to intense stress, sleepless nights, and moments of deep doubt. The difference is not the absence of fear, but his willingness to act alongside it. He does not wait for fear to disappear. He treats it as background noise. This is a subtle but powerful shift. Many people interpret fear as a signal to stop. Musk interprets it as a signal to think more clearly. Fear, to him, means the problem matters. It means the stakes are real. That awareness sharpens his focus rather than paralyzing it. Another aspect of his decision-making is temporal perspective. Musk thinks in decades, sometimes centuries. When you stretch the timeline, certain risks shrink while others grow. Public criticism today matters less if the long-term outcome changes civilization. Short-term losses become acceptable if they buy long-term optionality. This is why he can tolerate years of negative press or financial instability. He is mentally anchored in a future where the outcome has already justified the struggle. This future orientation acts like psychological armor. Musk also tends to make decisions by extreme ownership. When something fails, he internalizes responsibility. This is emotionally costly, but it gives him control. If failure is my fault, then improvement is also in my control. This mindset reduces helplessness, which is a major component of fear. People fear risk most when they feel powerless. Musk reduces fear by increasing agency. Even when the problem is enormous, he asks, what can I personally change to improve the odds? That question alone converts abstract risk into concrete action. It is also important to understand that Musk is willing to look foolish. Social risk does not weigh heavily on him compared to existential or technological risk. He will propose ideas that sound absurd, miss deadlines publicly, or contradict conventional wisdom. For many leaders, this would feel unbearable. For Musk, reputation is flexible. Physics is not. He prioritizes being wrong quickly over being safe slowly. This creates a culture around him where experimentation is normalized, though it also creates intense pressure and controversy. When making big decisions, Musk often reduces them to binary questions. Is this fundamentally possible? Is it necessary? If the answer to both is yes, then the remaining question is not should we try? But how fast can we learn? This framing eliminates a lot of mental clutter. It strips away ego, politics, and overanalysis. Many people drown in complexity because they ask too many secondary questions before answering the primary ones. Musk's clarity here is a form of courage. However, his approach is not without cost. The same intensity that allows him to take enormous risks also creates strain in relationships, teams, and his own well-being. He often pushes himself and others to the edge. This is not something to romanticize blindly. Understanding Musk's thinking about risk does not mean copying it without context. His tolerance for stress is unusually high, and even he has paid a price for it. The lesson is not take extreme risks, but understand which risks matter to you deeply enough to endure discomfort. At a deeper level, Musk's relationship with risk is tied to meaning. Risk is tolerable when life feels purposeful. When actions are connected to something larger than comfort, fear loses some of its power. Musk has repeatedly said that he wants to wake up excited about the future. That emotional criterion guides his biggest decisions more than spreadsheets alone ever could. If a safe path leads to a boring or fragile future, he rejects it. If a dangerous path leads to a future that inspires him, he leans in. He also revisits decisions constantly. Commitment does not mean blindness. Musk changes his mind when data changes. This flexibility reduces risk over time. Stubbornness is risky when it ignores reality. Adaptability is risky only to ego. Musk sacrifices ego to preserve momentum. He is willing to admit mistakes internally, even if publicly he appears defiant. This internal honesty is crucial. Big risks require fast course correction. Another subtle trait is that Musk does not outsource thinking. He listens to experts, but he does not surrender judgment. He builds his own mental models. This independence increases responsibility, but it also increases confidence. When you truly understand a problem, fear becomes more precise. Vague fear is terrifying. Specific fear is manageable. Musk's obsession with detail is not micromanagement for its own sake. it is fear reduction through understanding. In the end, how Elon Musk thinks about risk and big decisions is less about bravery and more about alignment. His actions align with his values, his timeline, and his understanding of reality. When those are aligned, risk becomes a tool rather than a threat. He does not eliminate danger, he chooses which dangers are worth facing. He accepts that suffering is part of building something meaningful and that comfort is often the enemy of progress. For anyone watching from the outside, it can be tempting to see only the spectacle, the bold promises, the dramatic failures, the improbable. In the quiet moments, when the noise fades and the headlines stop, Elon Musk's way of thinking about risk comes down to something simple and deeply human. He is not trying to prove that he is fearless. He is trying to prove that fear does not get the final vote. For him, the real danger is reaching the end of life knowing he saw problems clearly, knew solutions were possible, and still chose comfort over courage. Big decisions, in his world, are not about guarantees. They are about commitment. You commit to a direction knowing you might fail, knowing you will suffer, knowing people may misunderstand you. But you also commit knowing that if it works, the impact will outlive you. That trade-off makes sense to him. Risk becomes the price of meaning, and maybe that is why his story resonates with so many people. Because somewhere inside, most of us already know this truth: safety can protect a life, but only risk can expand it. Musk simply chose, again and again, to pay that price.